Hello and welcome to the Exam Study Expert podcast, where we're all about helping you study smarter with the science of learning so you can ace your exams without overwork and overwhelm. I'm your host, William Wadsworth, psychologist and study strategy coach. The idea I've got for you today is a short one, but it's a powerful one. We talk a lot here on the show about things to do, ways to help you study smarter. But here's the thing. If we just keep adding tasks to your overall system, it doesn't work. Our time is limited. We can only take on so much. So we need to make choices. We need to prioritize. Let's take a look at 3 case in points to illustrate what I mean and start to help you think through how this principle could apply to you and some useful things you can take from today's episode. So the first one I wanted to talk about relates to well-being and self-care advice. We talk about that as an occasional theme here on the show. Not least, we had Dr. Kimberly Horn last week, if you caught that episode. It's a really lovely conversation talking about the power of human connection and how we can all find time to make a little bit of meaningful connection each week, even when we are, as I know many of you are listening, super, super busy and have a huge amount on our plate. So I'll often talk to people who are trying to do all the right things when it comes to their self-care, their well-being. You know, they've taken on the meditation, they've taken on the exercise, they're doing the journaling. Perhaps in light of last week's episode on human connections, they're making time to see friends or make connections. You know, they're doing all the things. And it's completely overwhelming. The schedule is bursting at the seams. There is just so much they're trying to do each day, between everything else. Adding in extra things into that already full schedule is just making a problem kind of almost even worse. You know, I might look at their Google Calendar. I might talk through their schedule with them. You know, and it makes me feel exhausted. You know, it's a complete hustle to make it all happen each day, each week. So it's absolutely true that for some people, the path to better well-being is through addition. You know, there is space and kind of bandwidth in each day, in each week to add in more things, add in exercise, and that will make a big difference compared to before we made that switch. So, for someone that isn't exercising at all, for example, adding in that as a daily habit a little bit or kind of most days, that's going to make a big difference to your overall well-being, physical and mental health. But if we are already bursting at the seams and we're trying to do everything, we may struggle to perhaps, we might not be able to do everything at the level we want to. So my message here is absolutely not like, don't stop exercising when you get busy. Like, I think that's the wrong choice to make, but it might be the right choice for someone to make to maybe rein in what they're used to doing. So for example, if you're used to an hour, a 90-minute workout each morning, you take your physical fitness very seriously, maybe just for a season, we need to scale that back to 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. It's not the choice we'll make forever, but at that level, we're still maintaining good physical mental health, but we're creating a little bit more space to breathe each day. I'd also note the kind of consideration when it comes to sort of extracurricular things, particularly for some of my younger listeners. I'm a huge fan of kind of the extracurricular stuff, the co-curricular stuff. I did a ton of music, drama, sport growing up, and it was a big thing for me, and I'm really, really grateful for those opportunities, and I'd really recommend anybody seize those. But equally, when things get busy academically, when we're in a big exam season, it may be that we just need to pause on that, rein that in a little bit. It's not a choice forever. We're not necessarily walking away from it forever, but just for that season, we may need to pause a few things, scale a few things back, maybe push some projects out to a later point in the year. All that is absolutely fine, and there's no shame in that. That could be the right choice to help you through a busy season. Finally, for those of you who are maybe a little bit older, a little bit further down the path listening, and you've got some family commitments, thinking about how you, as my wife and I say with our family, how we can sometimes push that easy button when things get very busy, when we're in a kind of an intense season of life, and perhaps you're preparing for a big exam, how can you just push that easy button? It may be that we are a little bit simpler in terms of our ambitions for sort of meal prep each day. We don't kind of cook quite as elaborately. Maybe you make some smarter choices. You make some choices in terms of getting a little bit of help around the home or with family. There might not be choices you make forever. It may be slightly more expensive in the short term, for example, but that's a good choice perhaps to make just for a few weeks, a few months while we get through this busy season, and then we can resume normal service on the other side. So the second thing I wanted to talk about, now zooming in specifically to your actual study mechanics, so what you're doing in terms of the actual studying. And it's when we learn about something new, a new and more effective way of learning. We've shared lots of examples of that on the podcast over the years. And perhaps some of you've listened to some of those ideas and you're experienced scholars, you've been studying for exams in the past, you learn about a new way of working, through us or otherwise, and you get excited about its potential. The trap that a surprising number of people fall into is that we try and then add in that extra thing on top of the things we're already doing. And that, again, can be a recipe for feeling very overwhelmed and not being able to fit everything in. So what we want to be thinking about doing is having that confidence to let go of those things, those older habits that aren't as effective. Having that confidence to let go. And that frees up the space and the bandwidth to adopt the new things. If we try and do both, we end up spreading ourselves really thin, stretching ourselves too thin, and nothing is as effective as it could be. This is often a key part of my work when I'm coaching a new client. In many cases, I'll have long-time listeners come to me and they've learned a little bit from listening to the show over the years about the right things to do. But a key kind of conversation we'll have is helping them build that confidence to let go of the less helpful things. So look out for this playing out for you. And if it is playing out for you, please come and see me. Let's have a chat. We'll do some coaching on it. I can help you through. The sense of peace that you're on the best path is often a key thing that comes out from those early coaching sessions together. People often come to me for the strategies, the practical, tactical stuff to optimize your approach to learning, your routine, etc. And I'll certainly give you the best tools in your situation. But beyond the tools, beyond the practical stuff, that reassurance, that peace that you're doing the right thing, that confidence to focus on what's going to matter most for you, and the confidence to let go and put down the other things, then the peace that comes from all of that is often one of my favorite things to see emerging in one of my new students, typically in those first few sessions. So if I can help you with that as well, do head to examstudyexperts.com/coaching for more info. My third and final point for us today is related to the last one, but thinking less about how you study, the methods you're choosing, so much as what you're studying and the resources you're working from. So again, often students will come to me feeling overwhelmed because they've got so many different resources to study from. There are so many different options for the resources they could use. There's the revision guide, there's the textbook or several textbooks, there's notes they got from peers, there's sets of Brainscape or Anki cards they've inherited from someone, or maybe they've made their own materials in the past. There's the past papers to work from. For some older students, there's academic material to review too. There's the journals, recent papers, review articles, official guidelines from your field's governing body and so on. There's, so much material. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And so we need to look at all the different things you're doing, all the different things you could be doing, I should say, and make some choices about where your time is best spent. You've got a limited budget of time to invest. Let's invest it in the areas that are going to give you the highest yield. If we try and do everything, we won't end up doing anything particularly well, and we'll feel frazzled and overwhelmed. So we need to make the best choices. We've got a limited amount of time. Where do we spend it? Which horses do we back? To give you the biggest bang for your buck and help you make the most progress in the time available. As a very rough rule of thumb, I like to think in terms of aiming for about 3 core study tasks each week. Less than that is good. Like if it's just 1 or 2, that's cool. Like we may be able to stretch that slightly, but once we stretch that too much, we're trying to progress 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things each week. That's when both the brain starts to spin and we get that feeling of overwhelm, and also we don't feel like we can make meaningful progress so much because we're trying to spread ourselves too thin. So it's like a magnifying glass focusing the rays of the sun onto a piece of paper. When we focus that energy strongly on just 1 or 2, 3 things, then we can get to that point where the paper ignites and we can sort of ignite some learning. But if we try and don't have that magnifying glass, we don't have the sun's rays focused, we could leave that paper out in the sun and nothing would ever happen. Even if the sun shone on it all day, it would never kind of catch light and ignite until we focus those rays down. So we don't want to spread ourselves too thin. We want to focus on those key areas. I gave you that rule of thumb of 3. There's lots of sort of exceptions to this. And if you are studying multiple subjects, it may be that rule of 3 applies kind of within each subject. But that's a helpful little guidance to be going on with that works for kind of many situations. Ultimately, the simpler our plan feels, the simpler it is to kind of know what your plan is and being able to just, at a moment's notice, just think about the plan. If you bumped into someone in a lift, in 30 seconds, you can kind of communicate your plan to them, how you're studying, what you're focusing on each week. And the more we can get to that point, the less the brain will spin, the calmer you'll feel, and the more you'll be able to make progress each week. Again, sometimes this kind of thing, which bits do we focus on? That's often a key part of early coaching sessions with clients. So if you are a regular listener and you're facing a big exam or set of exams, whether it's at school, university, or for slightly older students as part of your career, and if you're not already one of my coaching clients, as many listeners are, what are you waiting for? It's never too late to make a difference, but the best time to start work together is always now. The sooner the better, because the sooner we can optimize your approach and help you make 10%, 20%, 50% more progress in each hour, in each week that you're studying, the longer you have to benefit from those gains. And ultimately, the more successful you'll be. The exam you're working on matters to you. You've chosen to invest time in listening to the show and learning about how to work smarter. So I would warmly encourage you to take the next step, follow in the footsteps of so many listeners before you who've done just often quite a little bit of one-on-one. My work is relatively light touch. We're not sort of signing up to vast numbers of sessions together. I can have an impact in a very short space of time. And let's work together to review, refine your study system for peace and progress now and success and pride on results day. The first step to working together is an exploratory chat to get to know each other, talk through how you're getting on, and explore how I might be able to help you. So if you'd like to take the first step today, book your chat with me over at examstudyexpert.com/coaching. Again, that's examstudyexpert.com/coaching. I look forward to supporting your success. Thanks once again for tuning in today, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Wishing you every success, as always, in your studies.